Back on Inside Tennessee with two candidates for District 2 in Knoxville City Council race. The primary coming up, John North.
Andrew, Kim, let's shift gears now and talk a little about the downtown stadium project, which is proposed, as you know, about $65 million we think at this point perhaps will open in 2024. That's assuming that the governing bodies bless what is proposed by the Sports Authority. So I'm very curious to hear from both of you your thoughts on this project. Some people are very excited about it. They say it'll bring baseball back to downtown Knoxville, but others are concerned that maybe that's not the best way to be spending a whole lot of money. Maybe there are some other ways it could be done. Andrew, let's start with you. What do you think about this? Is this a project that you're thinking, yes, I'm going to vote for it?
Well, John, thanks. In general, I would say I'm supportive of the project for a multi-use stadium. Remember, this is not just a baseball stadium, it's a multi-use stadium. And we've all, certainly if we've lived here a long time, we've all seen how downtown has really become as vibrant as it has and become a real economic engine for us. I think this project has a great potential for being another way of, or another gear for that economic engine for us to look at. There's a few things that I want to study before voting on it, and so that would be talking more about the community benefits, but then also the economic impact study. I really want to be able to review that as well, but in general, I'm supportive.
Thanks. And Kim, if you get elected, this would be a significant project that you would have to weigh in on at some point, one would assume. So what do you think about it? Is this a good idea, or do you see red flags?
Well, the potential economic development is exciting news for our city with many potential benefits. But once the final details of the proposed agreement are released to the public, then yeah, I would have to certainly review them and consider it further. But whenever tax dollars are being used, we need to make sure that there are protections for the taxpayers and full accountability, transparency to the public.
And dive into that a little bit more. What would be those transparency check marks that you would have in place for that stadium project to earn your support?
Well, we'd certainly need to see, a detailed spending agenda and make sure that the community really wants it. I think by and large they do. And, we want to make sure that the city is not burdened with the tax burden that they can't pay for, or even down the road. I think that's my concern. Is I think initially it's a great idea, it's a great investment, but 4 or 5 years from now, we won't know. So that's where the issue or the questions come.
So if you had to vote yes or no on it today, what would be your vote, Ms. Smith?
I would still really need to see more of the detailed plan before I say yes or no.
Councilman Roberto?
I want to see that economic study, but in general, I'm supportive of the plan.
All right, let's pivot to another issue and let's talk about KUB, because this is something that Council did vote on, creating broadband internet service through this public utility. If I recall, Councilman Roberto, you abstained from this vote, although your colleagues passed it in broad support. Explain your vote and what you think of the project.
I think it's a great project. I think it's a really good way to make sure that we have more choices for broadband. Certainly over the past year with the pandemic, we've really seen how important having internet access is, and having KUB be able to provide that with the speeds that they were going to and the price they were going to be able to. I think it's a great project. The reason that I abstained was because I am an advocate for public process, and I didn't feel like we had given enough time for council to have their process. And the way council has process with the public is we hold a workshop. And so I had suggested that we have a workshop, and I really wanted to make sure we had that opportunity to fully vet this in a public forum. And I think it's too bad that we didn't, but I'm very supportive of the project, as I said that evening.
Ms. Smith, your take on the KUB expansion into broadband?
Well, I have to agree with Councilman. We certainly need choices in our internet, and we certainly need high-speed internet, especially in lieu of the last 18 months. Once again, the taxpayers are going to be burdened with that 9% KUB increase, and I'm not exactly sure how many people are going to be reached through that the taxpayers should be burdened with that increase.
Ms. Smith, in our conversation thus far, it sounds like you two agree on a lot. Where do you disagree?
Well, we do agree on a lot, and I don't disagree that the councilman has done a great job, but I'm running also to be sure that the people have a choice in voting. And I think that's important for Knox County residents. I think it's important for America, and it's to just encourage everybody to get out and vote. And I think if we have major differences, it would be in looking at our fiscal budget and making sure that money is spent wisely and actually being allocated to the Knoxville residents.
Councilman Roberto, where do you see your differences? And then we'll move on to more specifics.
Well, since we were talking about fiscal responsibility, I think that's a good place for us to start. You know, we have a $63 million economic stability fund in this budget this current year. That's $63 million that's not going to be spent. It is there to provide economic stability. It gives us the opportunity to have a AAA bond rating, which actually, when we did some refinancing this past year, saved taxpayers $5.4 million. I'm absolutely committed to making sure that we maintain that fund going forward into the future. Over the 4 years that I've been on council, we've actually paid down the debt by $55 million, and I'm really proud of that. All of those things we've done without a property tax increase. And, you know, we need to continue to work on making sure that we have the firm financial footing so that we can be successful moving forward for everyone.
We're going to be back with more of our conversation with both these candidates in District 2. A quick break on Inside Tennessee, back right after this.